Welcome everybody to episode 2 of the Solar Activations webinar for ascendosphere.com. I hope you're all getting settled in as we've started up the system and that you're ready for an hour and a half of metaphysics that will turn your ascension path into a practical reality in your life. I am Kwan and I am here with Lotus today.
He wishes you all very welcome, and big thanks from me again for taking an active part here with us.
Certainly. And it has been quite an active time since our last broadcast of the solar activations, which I know that many of you have watched multiple times. So I have a lot of things in the course of this episode, the first part of this episode anyway, to share with you, things that you have sent in, experiences with the exercise that was given at the end of the first episode of the solar activations, and also some questions that some of you have sent in. And before we go there, however, I want to do a quick run through of all of the different countries right now that are represented here today again. We have over 15 countries, Lotus. It's quite a few, isn't it? I'm just going to go through the list. I mean, we have Greece and Mexico represented, Ireland, Portugal, New Zealand, the Netherlands, the United States is here, Canada is also dropping by, South Africa is here with us, Belgium, Scotland, France, Australia, Scandinavia, and Lemuria is here with us today.
That's great.
Yes, Lemuria is here with us today as well. And that's not a joke, it's actually true, because Ikara, who is running the solar meditations side or exercise side of this entire event,
Yes.
Has quite a group gathered in the Fluid Lemuria who are all very interested to hear what our sun, our solar body, has to say today, because it has been a long time since the sun, of course, has spoken to anyone on Earth in any dimension of time and space, Lotus. So
That's pretty monumentous.
yes, it
Whichever way
certainly
you look
is.
at it, really.
It certainly is.
Yeah. I
Yes.
don't know what to expect at all. I'm really excited. I don't know what to expect at all.
I don't think any one of us knows what to expect for today. And before we go into all of that, I see that on the questions board here, which you of course can write any comment or question on during this broadcast. Kim is with us. Hello, Kim. And he's saying Austria is also represented.
Go Austria.
Yes.
Okay.
And of course, let's not forget, because Kim either was or still is in Barcelona, that makes Spain an energy that is very present within this broadcast as well. So we have holographic points of consciousness from all over the world joining us. And that is just quite fantastic, I have to say. I'm always so happy to read through that list.
It's quite a coverage of the globe, isn't it? Really?
Yes,
It's great.
it truly is. And to see what is going on, And it's not just this globe either, We have multiple dimensions represented, and we have energies from all over the solar system because of the very nature of this broadcast. And before I go into your questions and comments here, I would like to just explain very briefly that if I look a bit fluffed up today, and if I look a bit off center today, or if I have to look for some words a little bit more, it's not just because I am about to bring in the energy of our beautiful sun. It's also because I've just gone through quite a number of days here in the physical universe, but also in archetypical space, where I accidentally got stuck overnight, as I've shared with you all on Twitter and social media, because of trying to re-enter actually back into the body a little bit too fast. I was taking some of my calculations a little bit too lightly, let's say, and then sometimes even with a few coordinates out of place, well, you can get stuck in a direction rather than a vector. A vector pierces through the dimensional walls, while a direction happens within a dimension. So vectors basically are a type of hyperspace or hyperdimensional setting, which allows you to simply shoot through these dimensions, such as 4D is one. Experiencing nothing more than a simple layer of it, a simple filter of it, which is over in less than a second. But if you get stuck in a direction and if you calculate incorrectly, well, then that dimension opens up and becomes bigger than the layer that you just would pass through in a hyperdimensional or tonal space. And that happened to me last night. And again, I mentioned this because of the things that we've been talking about in the previous episode, of course, where we discussed the electromagnetics, the way in which your body has an electromagnetic spin and interacts with the other bodies in the solar system, Earth included, and of course the Sun included, where there's this back and forth going on. And this is where the calculations happen. It actually is explained by Adamus Saint Germain in a series of lectures he did called Gravimetrics. The first 8 pages of which you can see in the premium zone of the Ascendosphere. Of course, many of you will have already read that piece of information where he discusses the LGO, or the Large Gravitational Object, which is a way to calculate where you are within a given point of reality. And if you make those corrections, or either course corrections incorrectly, then you could get stuck, and that happened to me last night. But that's not going to stop us, of course, from bringing through our beautiful sun. We have been preparing for this for quite a while now, and I know that she is ready, and I am ready too.
Great. Well, thank you very much for allowing me to have the privilege of sitting next to you while it happens. That's quite a big thing for me. So
I can imagine
thanks a lot.
it's quite an experience, and of course you being here physically, because Lotus is going to stay during this lecture, during this channel, to not only hold the energy, because that is quite an old energy concept, but rather to balance and distribute the energy, if you will, through the Merkava, of which you are all a part of, and through which you are not only going to hear the words that are offered by the Sun and the rest of the solar system in episodes to come as well, but you're actually going to be able to fully feel and experience the energy that is going to be a part of this experience. Mayana is in the questions board, and she says, "Hi dear Kwan Yin and Lotus," and sends us a little heart. How lovely.
Hello.
It's so good that you're all here with us. In fact, I can't wait for upcoming episodes where we're going to be interacting with you all live.
With video.
Yes,
Yeah,
audio and or
that'd be
video.
great.
Yeah. It sort of depends on what makes you feel most comfortable, whether it's only going to be audio or video. That choice is up to you, of course. But in today's episode, we're not going to be able to actually interact with you live, except for on the questions board here, because the sun is going to be taking quite some time. I think it might be close to an hour when that lecture will come through, and it will take that long a time. I believe that as we go through the other bodies in the solar system in episodes to come, they'll be rather slightly more briefly, and they will, give us some more time to interact with everybody else, and they will also interact with you live, as you will be able to ask your questions to these solar bodies. But that won't be the case today. So how about we go through some of these experiences here that people have sent in? How about that?
Yeah, good.
Actually, there's quite a few good ones. I'm going to start, that's what I feel to do here, actually not with an experience, but with a question. And in this case, it's a Ascendosphere crew member, Maria, that asks the question, and I wanted to take it on board because it will help you understand a lot more about how these things work. She says, "Is planet Earth the only planet with a working flower of life energy as a geometrical grid? Or are there other planets in the solar system where the energy is also awakening, or shall I say, reawakening? Well, it's a very good question, and I can answer it very briefly, which is why I'm taking it at the start of this show. The answer is obviously yes. This Flower of Life grid returning, which has started in June of 2015, fully fledged anyway, it has been building up for years before that, is indeed an experience that is happening throughout the entire solar system and from there on in the entire physical and intergalactic universe. This is quite a big event. Flower of Life, of course, being a hyperdimensional energy, does not consider time and space the way we do, and from an Achaenaic perspective, exists in all moments of time and space at the same time. So it is impossible for the Flower of Life to be contained within a finite space, which is not the same for other geometries. Of course, other geometries can be localized, if you will, but the Flower of Life geometry is never a local event. It's always a unified event that is at least taking place holographically, but beyond that also tonally and achaenaically. That's just how Merkaya works, you see.
Right, great answer.
Yes, thank you. There are a lot of people who have been working with exercises that were given during episode 1, most particularly the final exercise that was given during that event. Have you been working with this yourself?
I did the exercise with the sun, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what a beautiful thing that was.
Can you share
I'm
anything?
sure we're going to hear many similar things. Yeah, I just basically calmed myself, just centered myself for connecting. And then as I just connected, it was instantaneous.
Mm-hmm.
I had this very goldeny white glow, very much a feeling of reconnection for me. But then it goes a bit further. If you put it into words, it's different. It's difficult, but it was almost like hearing something like "Hello, me," and such an insight into the fact that that is always the case. Making that connection, you feel like you have to make a connection to something you're actually already entirely connected with all of the time.
Yes.
Was really what it, and from that, it was such a kind of laughter and a smiley sort of energy to share that, to experience that, and so to keep it short, that's how I experienced it.
Wow, that's actually quite exciting. And you know what I feel with that is that the result of this experience, or the way you explain this experience really, is truly the result of the fact that we have entered tonal space in the past, in the old physical universe, in the reality the way we used to know reality as. People would have to imbibe something such as ayahuasca or mushrooms, or meditate for an enormous amount of time and truly get to a space in order to even have that type of experience. And it would only be privileged to people such as shamanic warriors or magicians and that sort of thing. But now this is returning to all of us, really. And that's I know that is one of the things that the sun will talk about in the hour to come. It's quite beautiful, and a lot of you have been sending in quite a lot of experiences. Not only have people been telling us that during the other meditation that we put out, the Gaia meditation of the 8-12-8 broadcasts, but also the Power of 1,000 Suns exercise that Ikara provided a little while ago. People have been reporting all sorts of experiences that were very, very physical and very, very real. One person, for instance, told us that as they were going through these meditations, their body started shaking and vibrating as though they were being pulled out of the vibrational and frequential universe until sort of contact, Jodie Foster style again, until they all of a sudden decide to get out of that shaking vibrational chair and everything quiets down. And they arrive in the spherical tonal universe where there is balance, where there is no true center besides the center that is each observer or each witness to the co-creation of such a field. And then you are the center, but of course that's only a consciousness observational perspective. There is no true center in such a space. But that's the sort of thing. Flashing lights, people have reported as they were having their eyes closed. Some people reported electricity shortages happening in their house, wavering of electrical fields, which of course the electromagnetics that we've spoken of in the introduction to this webinar series would explain that sort of thing. Other people here, I have an experience by my beloved sister Yokia, who says, immense waves of gratitude for this incredibly enchanting journey as I listened to the recordings yesterday, having returned from my trip to South Africa. The entire room lit up. There was a mutation and pulse underneath my skin, and then the room just vanished. All that was left was many spheres of light spinning, and this point of light in the middle of 3 suns. At this point, she says, I lost memory and stopped listening and was out completely. Beautiful Kuan Yin, all my love, she concludes.
Well, I tell you, we're going to see a lot happening this year, aren't we?
Yes.
These experiences are coming in thick and fast, so as that begins to accelerate, you really can see how things are really going to change around people fast. The whole reality is going to seem different in such a short amount of time from now.
Exactly. And the interesting point to make here is that it's of course a shift of reality. A lot of people expect a completely different, from one blink to the next, let's say, a completely different space to unfold. But that is the thing. As you switch systems, you of course recreate the space that you are already in. From a tonal perspective, you recreate all of the pieces of energy and matter, but not in that low physical reality anymore. You recreate it tonally, and you create it holographically and akineically. So while these undefinable and undefined pieces of tonality, which can never truly be described in words, while they may take on the shape and the form that you are used to, they certainly are not on the subatomic level or on the quantum level the same matter, the same substance that you used to sit in before. That is a very important point here. Actually, on the questions board, Ami says, hello Ami, thank you for asking my question, dearest Maria. This is another thing that keeps happening, the question that we did earlier. This is another thing that is going on all the time, where this Merkava connection, we are becoming so much more telepathic and also telepathic, which is actually why sometimes these thought fields move around the Merkava, and there you can see that our thoughts, even when they are not being sent into us, like in the old matrix structure, but even the thoughts that we generate ourselves are completely neutral, not to be truly called our own, but are part of an intercreational relationship, you see. This is why these things happen. So I always have to laugh to see everybody getting used to this, and that this is becoming the norm.
Yeah, it's happening more and more.
If I go back to Yeshua's timeline from 2007 to 2009, people were never reporting this sort of an experience. And if they were, a lot of the time, they were sort of in the imagination realm. A little bit in a sort of a sandbox environment, a testing ground, as the Council of 12 used to say at the very beginning of the Cosmic Manifest, at the first couple of years of these lectures, 2007, 2008, possibly 2009, would be more of a sandbox environment where we could test these new abilities and get used to them and play around with them. And that, of course, continued onward until very recently in the beginning, I think, or no, in the middle of last year, Merkaya, the flower of life, started speaking to us and actually said that the training wheels would start coming off, which have now fully and completely come off. So what you were doing in that sandbox environment before, which was sort of like a playground area where nothing could really manifest for real, but it's sort of a simulator, let's say. Now you are actually doing this, and every time you have one of these experiences or intercreate something, even a thought, it gets broadcast via the flower of life grid everywhere, and it becomes a holographic part of everyone, you see, with or without a Merkava connection. So that's quite a big deal.
It certainly is.
Koka is with us, who says, my heart is connected to yours, ready to experience more expansion, infinite and eternal gratitude. It's so lovely to see everyone being with us today, isn't it? And how all of you are locking on so much more. Mayana here has a question. I'm just going to go through a few of these. She says, is this the same reality, but do we experience it differently? Well, as I said, you will take the same standard settings that you were reality creators with before in a matrix landscape into these, but you cannot technically call it the same reality because it is happening in another sphere, in another tone of the tonal universe, of the flower of life spheres. You understand this. You have shifted into another dimension, and where in old energy times teachers and other people would often misunderstand this concept by saying we're moving into the fourth dimension or into the fifth dimension, or whatever people would say, seventh, 12th. Even the Council of 12 and Imzaia consciousness at the very early days would use these concepts in order to make ourselves understood. But what is actually happening is that all of those dimensions that people thought we were moving towards are taking place in another tone, in another universe, if you will, another reality field altogether. Which is why we make the distinction between the concept of reality and the concept of tonality, to make people clearly understand that this is happening in another space, in another field altogether. And I guess that you have been saying quite a few months already now, Lotus, that you were starting to feel that more and more. I seem to remember that near the end of 2015, maybe already even October, November, those months, that you would say that you were starting to feel that this universe is now made up of different substance, that things were happening in very different ways and manifesting in very different ways for you.
I think to feel it physically and in a very much more tangible way, I've often said that there's only one substance.
Yes.
But technically, that energy that was previously compressed into matter, what we understand as physical space, now to me doesn't feel as compressed, doesn't feel as solid. It feels more like you are part of the sun, of the light, of everything, in a much more fluid, when I say fluid, I don't mean liquid, but a much more gaseous, but I don't mean gas.
These forms, these shapes cannot be described that way.
And,
undefined, maybe, is one of the best ways you could say it.
Yeah, and I think for me at least, you experience less separation. It's more like you're connected to these beams of light, or whatever it is you're experiencing in your physical reality. It feels less separate as well. Because of this process, technically it is. Exactly.
I'm sure that all of you have similar experiences, and we're going to go deeper into this in a minute now. I'm still going to go through a few things that are happening on the dashboard here. There's Ami from South Africa with us again. She says, please accept our love and gratitude. In tonal space, she says, in our Imzaia Merkava? Do we need protection? Do we bring in or work with things such as the violet flame for clearing, or is this only relegated to the energy of the vibrational realms? Is what she asks. And I think that is a very good question. I have explained this, I believe, here to my direct students in the past, and I don't think I've done it on the air yet. But one point I would like to make is that the Merkava, although you could see it as a ship of thought, or from a sci-fi perspective almost as a sort of energetic interdimensional spaceship, which would be a conscious being at the same time, you shouldn't go too far in that metaphor or in that analogy, because if you think spaceships on TV and films, then you think shields and that sort of thing. But that is not exactly how the Merkava works. When the Merkava enters physical reality or vibrational reality as well, then indeed there is the Eya Ichipa mechanism that kicks in, which basically creates a Merkaba around the entire Merkava, so that the Merkava can be a point in time and space, which we can create as small, a needle point, or even smaller, not even visible to the human eye, or we can create it as large as we would want to. So it is, at that point, it becomes a infinite space represented in a finite point in time and space and within the field of consciousness. In that moment, there are systems, as I said, such as the Eya Ichipa systems, that actually protect the Merkava from intrusions, but sometimes need repairing because things can go wrong. However, when the Merkava exists in tonal space and re-enters its home turf from that perspective, then there is truly no protection layer. The Merkava on that level is a very neutral concept, which is why it is left up to the points of consciousness within the Merkava, which is all of you, which is all of us here, and everyone connecting to Imzaia consciousness, everyone that has ever ascended, is ascending, and will ever ascend, that we ask you to remain in certain spaces so that whatever you are thinking or whatever thought fields are being fed into you cannot actually affect everyone else. If that is not done with some awareness and some focus, it can indeed affect other people. But ultimately, given that the Merkava also works with the flower of life geometry as one of its core systems, any sort of infliction or any sort of infiltration that happens from the lower dimensional realms is very quickly taken care of by neutralizing it, balancing it, and inviting it into the tonal realm, which usually always is the case. The stronger the Merkava gets, the quicker this sort of an experience comes to pass. Does that answer the question, do you think, Lotus?
No, it certainly does, I think. It's a great question, and it's a great answer again, of course, it always is.
Thank you. Sorry.
So, with the we were talking about this the other day, actually. It is kind of a shield, really, to answer really short, is that the Ichipa version of protection, it does act like that. But great to know that you actually don't need it at some point, anything.
Yes, indeed. So let's go into some of these experiences / questions. And the first person that I would like to put our shared attention to is Lieve Essers, whom I believe is currently in Belgium. Hello, Lieve. Our bodies have the same DNA song, I believe, given that I'm currently sitting in a body vessel that is from those grounds. So hello. She both writes something here on the questions board in the moment, but also sent in a question a couple of days ago. And she says in the question from a couple of days ago, I hear that Many have made a connection with other planets, and I'm so glad to hear this. I could not make this connection, however. I did feel, she says, hundreds of people walking into this huge sun, and then she says there was a gorilla, a bear, and a lion. It was all very subtle. I don't know what these animals were about. I can imagine that that must confuse. Is there anything you would like to share about this? She says. I hope to be able to make this connection that the others made. And even though I've already written back to you, Leva, personally, I'm also going to say this on the air. You have to think about the solar system consciousness of the individual planets, but also from the sun itself, as being in a very Elohim-like or very, very childlike, playful-like state. This is what beings do and feel within the tonal universe. There is no fear, there is no pain, there is no suffering, there is no separation. So imagine a young baby or a young puppy even coming into this world. If it never experiences things such as pain or suffering or separation or any of that stuff, even hunger, lack, all of that, then of course a very different type of persona develops. A persona that doesn't know flight or fight responses, doesn't know survival responses, doesn't know dog eat dog responses, none of that. No conflict, no tactics within a world to come out on top. None of that exists. So you stay in this very childlike place. So when I see that you are writing that you couldn't immediately make the connection, but that you saw these visuals anyway, then I would say that these beings were playing hide and seek with you. And at the same time, while this is a game to them, it also probably had a deeper meaning. Because as you saw these hundreds of people walking into the sun, then you saw a physical representation of what actually is currently happening within our solar system, and not only our own solar system, but everywhere else. And I believe that you did not necessarily see the sun itself, our planetary sun, but that you were observing the central sun. A while ago, of course, as the planetary and both the cosmic matrix as well were shut down, the limitations that were put upon this old field of reality as it moved into tonal space were reopened. Which means that there was no restrictions to enter or exit this tonal field, and there are no restrictions of any kind on that level anymore. Which is also why a lot of people are reporting unidentified flying objects, UFOs, orbs, or interdimensional experiences, because the playing field, as Kutumi once called it years ago, is reopening and has been reopened for a while now. So you saw all of these beings entering, which is quite an experience to have. I also believe that the reason why you were shown this before you actually were able and are going to be able to visit these planetary and bodies and also this solar body is because a part of you was also re-entering this particular tonal field, which you might have left behind before. Write back to me and see how this translation feels for you, because if this is so, then I believe that in the last couple of days, you and also in the days ahead, that you will feel quite some interesting effects from all of this as tonal parts of yourself are reconnecting and starting to work with you as a whole again. And then to close the question here, the gorilla, the bear, sorry, and the lion. Now that is a very interesting aspect as well. Even though I believe you saw a gorilla, a bear, and a lion, this was the typical turtle, dolphin sort of energy. that is starting to reconnect with you, the whale energy as well, which in many cases in the tonal field are not stuck on one form. The only reason we think of these Lemurian energies as a dolphin, a turtle, and a whale is because those were the forms and the frequencies with which they would exist within the old vibrational universe as a sort of guiding compass for us to recognize our own road signs back home, if you will. But now that we are entering tonal space, there's absolutely no need anymore, of course, for these beings, these energies, these tonalities to stay restrictive to one shape. So again, this is a game. This is them starting to show you more sides to themselves. So let's say, for instance, that the turtle would manifest as the gorilla, then that would mean it was showing you that part of its own tonality, that part of its own infinity, and that it is starting to teach you, show you yourself how to do that, and various worlds in which you can play these things out. So I hope that helps, to help you understand that, in my opinion, you did more than just make something up, and that you think that you didn't make any connection. In fact, it was a very strong connection. It's just that you may have had issues translating that energy.
Another fascinating answer. And a brilliant thing to write in with, isn't it? It's very,
Yes.
very nice to hear that sort of thing is happening.
Yes, very much so.
Good with sharing all of that. It really helps. Yeah.
We have many pages still ultimately to go through, which of course we're going to keep doing during upcoming episodes as well, and we'll see where we get after the lecture by the Sun in a little while, whether we still feel to continue with some of these questions and experiences today, or whether we'll take them into the episode that is going to be released tomorrow, for instance. But what I would like to say already about all of this is that so many people express experiences that seem to match up with one another. Some seem to have one side of the coin, while the others actually conclude the experiences that are there, so it becomes much more understandable that way once you see the full picture. And that's those are the pieces I'm sort of currently putting together, in order to discuss this in episodes to come.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so we'll see how far we get with all of that today. They're definitely worth being spoken of. One more point that I would like to make is that Ciro from Mexico, he sent in a small comment alongside other questions, which we still will answer at some point as well. But one comment, and I've been wanting to remind everybody of this already, is that in episode 1, about 46 minutes into the episode, I made a small remark about the hexagonal storm, which of course is on Saturn and not Mars. I made a mistake there. At other moments during the broadcast, of course, I spoke of the hexagonal storm on Saturn, but I misspoke in that particular moment and accidentally mentioned Mars. So I just wanted to correct that, so that everybody has a full idea of what we are talking about here. All right. I think, Lotus, that instead of spending too many words at this point, we are now 7:45, so we are over half an hour at least into the broadcast. That maybe it is time to start connecting to the main reason why we're all together here today, and that we start bringing in the energy of our beloved Sun. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, feels like it's the right time.
Are you going to do it, or shall I?
You do it this time.
Okay, I'll do it this time. But you're going to do it next time, all right?
Well, we'll see.
Shall we say when Venus comes in next time? You'll take care of that one?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, this is truly, as I said at the beginning of the broadcast, a shared creation anyway, because you're going to be taking on board a rather important function in the next hour or so.
Okay, shall I shuffle slightly?
Yes, if you would
Out of the
go
way.
backwards a little bit, and I'll move a little bit more to the center here.
You're right there, like that.
Yes, that's perfect. Well, everybody, I hope you're going to have a good time with this one. It may take a few minutes, probably not actually a few minutes, but at least 30 to 40 seconds before the translation cycle will be complete and the sun will be fully here with us, coming through this body, this point of consciousness. Meanwhile, while we prepare for this, I hope that you can feel the heart space, that you can feel the pulsation within the heart space in the center of your chest. With every in-breath and out-breath, this space grows. So, all I ask of you right now is to simply allow this space to continue to grow, to continue to expand, and to breathe with me as I prepare to leave this space and bring through the brilliance and the joyfulness and the playfulness that is together the vector of our beloved sun. I'll see you on the flip side. Imzaia kina Honoleia Honolena ya Leia Imzaia Greetings, one and all. I am the consciousness known as Honoleia, or Leia for short, as Lemurians would once call me. I am the energy that you know as your solar body. What a wonderful time to be here in this moment with you, to share the distribution of balance and energy through the Merkava field that is currently expanding as we sit together, as we speak. I give you some time to get comfortable with and used to the heliospherical domain that I invite you into as we speak together, exchange truth together, become one being together. Remember the one beingness that we are together. It is an unusual thing for human beings, the way you have lived on this planet Earth this much time already, your entire lifetimes, disconnected from a level of consciousness that could help you understand and connect to all that is, connect to the heart of all things. And now that this consciousness level is returning to you, now that the openness is once again here, a conversation between different aspects, which is truly all that we are amongst one another, you and I, different aspects of consciousness of one whole, can start up again. This conversation never fully shut down, only it was taken into electromagnetic frequency in order to protect the purity of the information that was shared at that time. Purity was required because of the interference patterns that used to exist once in what you call the global or even the cosmic matrix. Interference patterns that would make you feel separated, that would make you feel and believe that indeed you are separate from that concept which you call God. God, of course, being nothing else but full unity, full wholeness, full oneness. As long as you were taught and instructed and programmed to place that concept outside of yourselves, it was impossible for any type of a connection to take place in realms, in forms of consciousness or layers of consciousness that you could conceive of as being real. And such it was hidden in the field of electromagnetics. As you and many along with you probably know, the electromagnetic field and the field of magnetics in general translates in your body field as the concept of love. Under a strong influence of magnetics, therefore, you would feel the love energy increase. Under a weak influence of magnetics, you would feel the love energy decrease. And other types that are the dualistic opposite of that energy would emerge. This was our way of communicating with you, of trying to guide you, of trying to inform you, truly, as to what space you were currently translating, what space you were currently energizing, if you will, and transversing as well. Sort of a cosmic Marco Polo game, if you will, where one in a pool has their eyes closed and shouts Marco, and the other person goes Polo. Or another game that can be thought of in your childhood years is the hot and cold game. Are you hot or are you cold? Are you close to the object that is your desire, that which in the game that you play you then seek, or are you far away from it, hot and cold? So love was switched on or love was switched off, if you will, in order to illustrate to you what place you were traversing into. That was the only way that we could ensure that energy, proper communication, would consistently ensue and exist between us. Now, however, that we no longer need to work with this type of a restriction, now that you are coming to terms and are starting to accept your connection, your God connection, your unity with all that is, and that indeed you are divine, that indeed you are this so-called ascending particle that Kwan Yin and others so often speak of. Your consciousness is rising into the tonal field, where this separation and therefore these precautions in communication were never a problem, were never needed to be taken. As such, it now becomes possible for the various aspects of yourself to reconnect with one another, for us to talk to one another once again, much like the different neural connections inside of the large heart brain that is this universe, that is this cosmos. When you think of the energy of my solar body in your old type New Age schools of spiritual thought, you often would consider me a masculine energy, and you would consider Gaia the feminine side to that masculine energy. But this is furthest from the truth that you could possibly get. I, as a star, being the center of the moving energy field that is this solar system, am anything but masculine. Indeed, I carry the feminine frequency, beloveds. Now, this is not the case for all stars, and this is probably where your misinterpretation came to be. When a star, everything that you know of as stars in your galaxy and universe, exists and therefore is read within the tonal universe, the energy of such will always be female. When that same star, however, gets read and filtered through the matrix reality field, very often a masculine filter is placed on top of such a being in order for that being to be misrepresented, be separate from you, and indeed be in a space of authority over you. Now, this is not a desired outcome, of course, which is another reason why we seized the levels of communication that are now once again opening. As you, via your Illuminati mind control techniques, saw the sun as a dominant father figure and were forced to translate such concepts into your field of thought and into your reality perception, of course, many of the objects, many of the things, many of the events, many of the situations that indeed were being translated and lit upon by the life force coming out of the solar body that you know as me, you would end up with experiences that were masculine in origin, even though the true connection between the experiencers was of a feminine origin. It is a very typical situation for any matrix field to create such filters and therefore to create potentials to influence the co-creators of that reality. Now that you are returning to the tonal space that is your true point of origin, it is no longer possible for these filters to come through as strongly as they once did, and soon, in the year ahead, it will become impossible for them to exist altogether. At that point, the true life force energy can connect with the love force energy that is, beloved, Gaia. Gaia and myself, Leia, or Honoleia, as some would like to call me, are indeed aspects of one another, both of a feminine nature. And this feminine nature, or feminine nature, as Kwan currently is correcting me, is intercreationally one. There is no true difference between myself, Leia, the center of your solar system, and the planets in your solar system, the other points of consciousness within your solar system, such as Gaia, or such as the consciousness of Venus, Jupiter, Saturn, or any of the other bodies that will communicate with you in the time ahead. There is absolutely no difference. We express different aspects, perhaps, of the whole, but we still express the same whole. We ultimately are aspects of that which you know as the central sun, where our wholeness exists without a fractal, creatory, divisionary field. The fractal holographic experience that is the old reality field that you used to exist in created these different aspects, these different pockets, in order for different versions of experience to be had. The solar system is one of those reality creation fields, one of those fractal expressions. And many of the other systems, other galaxies even, and other systems within those galaxies and this galaxy are other expressions of that same reality field, where it becomes possible to explore different vibratory energies. And now, as we return to the totality and the oneness of the tonal space that is your point of origin, you end up in the spherical reality bubbles of your choice, no longer being translated in a vibratory or frequential way, no longer indeed being translated at all or filtered at all, but rather being the translators, being the creators, your point of consciousness being the filter through which reality is observed and therefore ultimately changed. A lot of pressure is building in this body's head, so I am going to change some of the tonality in which this message is coming forth. It is not our objective, of course, to create a headache within this body or in any of your bodies. It might be that some moments of discomfort come to pass as you learn to reconnect to these tonal experiences in this point of origin, which is your true presence, your true essence, and your true home. However, these will pass very, very quickly. The reason why you could experience certain pieces of discomfort within any type and any part or any location of your body is because you will learn to once again look at each part that makes up each cell, each part therefore that makes up your total beingness as a holographic version of ourselves, of all of your solar system reality. And as you do so, therefore, communication between the atomic and subatomic particles, for instance, is starting to take place. Communication between the particles that orbit the nucleus of each of your cells is taking place. And the reawakening of the solar body, the Leia, inside each of your cells is taking place as well. So this is only, if it is at all happening to you, a very temporary situation that will soon be resolved and that you will soon reap the benefits of. But, as I was saying, it is important for you to realize the true tonal space that you have now entered into and what actually exists here. As I was saying, between the aspects of myself, Leia, and the aspect, for instance, that you currently are very much interconnected with, the aspect known as Gaia, there exists a heliospherical relationship. In this heliospherical relationship, we create our own sovereign domain, and this is the domain that allows you to experience this universe, this reality field that you currently sit in. But do not make the mistake that we are doing this for you. We are doing this with you, because you too are Leia. You too are Gaia. You too are every point in time and space and every point within consciousness. This is a very, very important thing to realize as this series of lectures will continue. So, having said that, now it is time to explore our relationship, to explore the connection that we have together. Even though you will no longer work with energies such as electromagnetics, and these energies of the electromagnetic kind are now moved up into the higher versions of itself, therefore becoming tonality, much like you are, there's no separation that exists. There is no time and space that exists. You must let go of these concepts. You must start to realize that the eternal now is all that is present, and that there is no true division between, for instance, the camera in which I now broadcast to you and the body through which I now broadcast to you, or the body of Lotus that is sitting behind us, or the desk that is in front of us. There is no space in between these points of reality, and therefore there also can be no time between these points of reality. What truly exists between these points is the consciousness field, the Merkaba and the Merkava field that creates the space in which these are experienced. But your experience is no longer the separation that you once thought it was. It is the experience of time and space only still because you recreate that experience. But the experience of time and space truly are no longer present within your field. It is up to you to experiment with this. It is up to you to play with this. It is up to you to reconnect to all of the different aspects that you are. If you think of the central sun itself as a torus field in which you exist, as a torus field yourself, then the separating aspects, the fractal nature of all of the other stars and all of the other planets and all of the other bodies on these planets within everything that you know as reality is a constant flow of energy through which you can sojourn, through which you no longer are restricted to the lifetime that you consider biological in order to have all of these experiences, one after the other, which is what happens during the experience of time. When you are able to move through the consciousness field using flower of life techniques and other techniques that will come to you in the time ahead, in the days ahead, in the experiences ahead, you will learn that it is very possible to inhabit all rather than the now that you are currently inhabiting. As such, it is a revelation to all of you that you no longer need to be restricted to the life and death and rebirth cycle. And that stepping out of this merely requires a cleanup of old situations, old energy that you have chosen to continue onward with in this current lifetime that you sit in. As long as you keep these particles, whatever they may be, places, people, events, situations, thoughts, history, whatever, as long as these things remain constant in your life, as long as you decide to travel side by side, as much in a similar way as the planets decide to continue traveling with the sun, you continue to exist within that structure. You continue, therefore, to recreate any of your cells in your body within that given structure, as the holographic nature of reality will copy and copy and copy and copy and replicate until the entire reality field has been created. However, if you decide to let go of these things, it becomes once again possible, indeed, to make it so that you can rise above, literally, rise above the situation that you consider to be your lifetime without having to go through all of these illusions, without having to go through all of these time frequency shifts that you call the seconds that you exist in, the day-to-day that you exist in, etc. It truly is a limitation to choose for such a thing. But, as I said, in order to be able to choose for different situations, one must indeed clean up the old energy in one's existence, in one's beingness. And this is what you are invited to do. This is what all of the Saturnian shutdown has been about, and the Jupiterian reactivation has been about. This is what is ahead for you now. This is what is next for you now. This is the job to focus on, to truly and fully reinvent yourself. Once this job, if you will, is complete, the preparatory work is complete, and the ascension path that you so often speak and think of can truly open up. This is when the, as described, open source ascension by Imzaia consciousness can activate. And as it does, is when the higher levels of the ascension path, which are the original and deep core felt levels of the ascension path, can come to you. So, with that being said, it must be clear that it is all up to you, beloved human. I am merely an aspect of you called Leia that radiates to you every single day, that now no longer needs to translate via a masculine energy field, and that reminds you to radiate as much as I do every day in your reality. If you can witness me doing it, then it must be possible for you, of course, to do it yourself. But have you ever seen me influenced in your reality field by anything else that was not created from the perspective of another aspect? I do not believe so. It was explained during the introductory session of this particular webinar how electromagnetically, with spin cycles and such, you communicate with the rest of this universe. Now, this electromagnetic spin cycle time had a lapse to it, which over the years that you have been on this planet Earth has been reducing. Once it was 7 hours, those 7 hours of in-between buffer zone, if you will, between reality thought and reality manifestation, then reduced to 7 minutes. It once was at a rate of 17 seconds. It then went to a rate of 7 seconds, and less and less and less and less, until you fully broke through into tonal space, where there now is absolutely no buffer anymore. Which means that as aspects of one another, we can clearly and fully communicate in the same moment, which is what we are doing, which is how we are going to be working and playing together. When it is not happening through this body, of course, as the introductory talk is, it will be right through the very cells, through the very Leia systems of your own body. And before I continue with that particular part of the explanation, you may wonder why the name Leia also shows up in some of your more modern mythological or mystery works that you see, such as the Star Wars movies. Princess Leia within the Star Wars movies is a very known concept, of course. But the reason this name overlaps with one another is because in that particular mythology, which is created archeneically, of course, through overlighting systems, a lot of the truth of what is actually happening within your realm was being disclosed. It is why right now you still have about 3 of these so-called movies to go. And this may seem like a very minor topic to discuss, and truly it is. But we like to, of course, keep up with your creative efforts and to see what you manifest in your universe. And this is one of those things that brought with it a great deal of understanding on a subconscious level for many of you when you exposed yourself to such pieces of light and therefore information known as movies, etc. And now in the digital realm as well. The name Leia and the concept of Princess Leia within that mythology being the main thing that needed protecting, the main thing that needed to be brought home, of course, translates in the hero's journey model very quickly to the true situation of your solar system. It was a reminder. The concept of Luke Skywalker being the human generic model, and the concept of Leia, the energy that needed protecting, and that ultimately, I hope I'm not giving anything away, turned out to be his actual sister, of course very easily translates to the situation that you now sit in. Gaia and Leia truly are sisters. Humanity and the essence of the consciousness that lives within myself truly are sisters. Sisters and brothers ultimately does not translate into anything else than being an aspect of one another, once again. This concept repeats in nature over and over again. And you will see a lot of your mythologies, going back to your Greek mythologies and earlier mythologies throughout the world, speak of the same concept over and over again. Each time in Achaemenid creation, in many cases at least. Each time created by overlight procedure, and each time installing within you the reminder that this physical universe and all of its separation truly is not your point of origin and therefore is not real. A reminder that every time you looked up to the skies, to the stars, to the animals, to the different things around you, that these are all points of you that you could connect with, that you can once again communicate with. And while these points of consciousness may all be you, they all, each in their own intercreative right, manifest reality fields which also are you, which is where you can go to experience, to create, and to expand. It will be rather difficult for many of you. The thought that there truly is no point to creation, that there truly is no goal to creation. In a matrix-based reality that you have always sat in, as far as this lifetime and some other ones go anyway, you are always talking about the goal and the means to an end and what you want to achieve. You're always talking about the next point in time, the future, to get to that future, to make that future the now. You're always talking about building and creating things which then had a reason for being, etc., etc. But this is a very matrix-based concept, a very matrix-based thought that cannot be considered to be truly part of everything that you are. As we explore this together with the other solar aspects that are the planetary bodies in the time that is ahead, you will understand why there can possibly be no point, no goal to creation, not only because it is infinite and eternal, but also it is an important function of your consciousness to create no goals, to create no points. Only expansion can truly be created. And as there is no limit to a concept known as expansion, or a concept as it has been translated by the Flower of Life herself as celebration, it isn't possible to have a goal, you see. A goal implies a limit. A goal implies a finish. This is the sort of way you have to stop working with the thoughts in your head. It will take some recalibration effort, but ultimately it is very doable. Ultimately, you will get used to this form of being and you will understand how extremely liberating it is. Again, the concept of a goal is very much a masculine concept. A concept of building something, of manifesting something, all of these things is very much a masculine concept. And only because the light, which originally is the life force, that was the communication device between my realm and Gaia's realm, in which you sit, was turned and filtered through the masculine norm, you end up in a field of separation. You see everything around you as an object, something to be manipulated, some form that needs to be designed. You look upon the earth as something that needs to be worked with, and such you build your buildings, you build your houses, you build your tools to build your houses with. You build your cars, you build everything around you. Even you build children. Using the uterus and all of these devices inside of the physical body, you build and you build and you build and you build. And you believe that all of these things exist because building blocks have to come together and ultimately, in a period of linear time, must manifest an outcome. This is not so. Even with electromagnetics in place in the old matrix reality field, you had the option at any time to manifest within a small buffer, which, let's say, for a long time, used to be about 7 seconds. Anything that you want. But now that is gone. So if you can understand that there is no such thing as a separate object around you, if you can understand that the camera through which this is now being recorded, or the device through which you are listening to this, or anything that is around you for that matter, that this is truly your energy, which has been said for so long on your planet in all of your spiritual material that would go round and round and round the mill through the centuries, that this can now become a practical application. This is what I want you to explore. This is what I invite you to exercise with. In the exercise given in the introductory class of this particular webinar, you were invited to go and explore some other reality fields, some other points of consciousness, such as your sun, i.e. me, i.e. Leia, such as Venus, and such as Jupiter and Saturn. And you did so, but you did so within the concept of time and space. This time, I am asking you to do so within the concept of tonal space. And therefore to realize that it is not you that moves to these other locations. It is not you that shoot around and fly through the universe. Instead, it is the space manifestation around you that does the moving, that shifts and moves. And in the day ahead and the days after that, to practice this consistently, to be aware that as you move your body up a flight of stairs or across a street or whatever you do with it, that it is not the body that is moving, but that it is time and space around you, the reality field around you, that is doing the moving. This certainly will help you understand that you no longer are in a physical universe, but that in the tonality that you are now currently sitting in, you simply are the center point of observation, as has been explained, and everything else moves around you. Then, when you have practiced this for about 24 to 48 hours, it is time for you to start manifesting reality around you within a conscious and aware framework. At that point, start practicing a very simple exercise, manifesting Lemurian seed crystals. This is the exercise that is now ahead for you. You can practice this after these 24 to 48 hours are over by the full realization that you are every piece of matter around you, that you are every piece of empty space around you indeed. This is what you must practice if you so seek to find it within yourself, to remove from your field of limitations the grand illusions and to break open what is now ahead. There may be two types in which you can practice this exercise. Initially, I would recommend that you take a small piece of wood from our beloved forests of our beloved sister Gaia, and that you take this wood and place it in front of yourself. Make it small, make it no bigger than this. 10 centimeters, something like that. Put it in front of you, and by the sheer will of your intercreative power, turn it into a Lemurian seed crystal. You may think it is extremely difficult to manifest a Lemurian seed crystal, and why are we not asking to manifest an apple or something simpler? Wow! The reason for that is because you will learn that the crystalline form is the simplest form to manifest in tonal space, as it is truly the lowest tonality point, the lowest tone, the simplest tone within the spectrum of exploration that awaits you. Much like you once had a low-moving vibratory field out of 12, and within that vibratory field, a low-moving frequency field out of 12, so you will learn that the crystalline structure is the easiest for tone to manifest a reality. It is why many planets in their original formation, in their original manifestation as a point of consciousness into reality, forms as a diamond-based planet, because it is such a simple form to manifest. It merely is tonality compressed into energy, compressed into matter. And there you go, you have a crystal. You can do this either by using a piece of wood and to simply replace the matter into another form of matter, or if you're so inclined, you do not need to use the piece of wood at all. You can simply focus on a point of empty space in front of you, and from there use the same type of energy, because there is no difference between that piece of wood and empty space to begin with, in order to manifest this. When I speak next, we will see which of you has had success with this and which aspects of you will have had a harder time with this. There will be some on both sides of the field, as you will see, and we will explain in that point what exactly happened, why it is easy for certain beings to do so, and why it is harder for certain beings to do so. One piece that I will give you quite now already is that when you work with manifestation in a tonal universe, you should never, ever give a structure of definition to any type of geometry that goes above the organizational field. And when I say above the organizational field, I mean goes beyond the simplicity and into complexity of an organizational field that is the flower of life. The flower of life indeed is the most complex form of geometry that can exist within the tonal universe in which you will be doing this exercise. Anything that goes beyond that simplicity becomes a complex material geometry which ultimately will manifest into energy and matter, such as, for instance, the pentacle or the cube or anything. The reason why the flower of life geometry offers this simplicity is that any shape and form of geometry can be born from her and return to her, melt back into her, and therefore they are not limited by definition. So when you work with this, and this exercise is going to take up quite a bit of your time in the days ahead, if you are serious about this anyway, then do not forget to release any form that the geometry that you seek in order to manifest that Lemurian seed crystal should take. Do not make that mistake. All right? Having said that, obviously, I, Leia, will not be here during tomorrow's episode of the Solar Activations webinar. Instead, some of the planetary bodies will be here, and they will speak to you about the evolution that 2015 in your reality field has been and what 2016 is going to bring on the level of manifestation beyond what I have shared with you today. In a couple of episodes, I myself will be back, and when I come back to you in your reality field, we will discuss this particular exercise that has now been given, and we will continue this conversation. From within the heart of 1,044 stars, I beam my life force to you. I beam love to you. And I thank you for having risen in consciousness to such an extent that no longer I have to appear to you as a dead and masculine object in your heavens, restricted to following the pre-described parameter known as the orbit of gravity, or to dance with you within that pre-described philosophy. So let us move, dear consciousness pioneer, from a tango to a salsa, and let's shake things up. Let's get a little crazy and exuberant to such an extent that you forget to think about yourself as a restrictive form, that you're no longer shy about who you truly are, and that instead you let your radiance shine. You let it beam out into all that is, simply because you recognize you are all that is. Take back that which is you and expand it beyond your wildest dreams. I am Leia, known to some Lemurians as Honoleia, and it is my honor to shine life upon you. Be well, create well, be inventive, and be reckless. Always. Namaste. We will speak again soon. And so it is. Whew. Hello. Well, that was a bit of a steam train, wasn't it? Thank you. It felt as though there was constant energy beaming out like a machine gun.
Yeah.
Shall you come back a bit closer, Lotus? Yeah. Oh, hello everybody. We're back with you right now. I'm taking a little bit of time to regain consciousness. And there is a lot of pressure here in the back of my head right now, but as has been explained during the lecture, I guess that is the power of 1,044 suns coming alive within the center of each of ourselves, within the heart of all things, across everything that we are, including our physical and atomic structure. I don't know, what did you feel through all of this?
Well, I think I must have felt something similar to you in a much more diluted way, perhaps. But just before that was said about the tones having to be changed slightly, I could feel an enormous pressure and dizzying feeling. But straight away, it felt like a very light but fast-moving, powerful energy, which felt really constant. It was quite difficult to stay on the chair at some point, so I was thinking, don't fall off the chair.
It's interesting. I had the same when I was going into channel, and right now Leia is still singing to me, and she's singing a very modern song. She's singing, "I came in like a wrecking ball." And she sure did. Boy, did she throw over some of the more structured and fixed points in time and space. I mean, the exercise that was given at the end, I mean, I hope that you're going to take that seriously, everybody.
That would be brilliant for people to really try that and spend a few days in preparation for the final part of the exercise. Because to have results like that, I know what that's like. I've literally been at that point where things change, and it's something I'd like everyone to experience and know how easy it is to do. That sort of way back when you first came in, and my first attempt that happened. So it's good luck with that one.
Yes, actually, that reminds me. I mean, many years ago, Lotus already was working with geometry, of course, and at that point, the structures of geometry, because this is like as early as 2009 now, at that point, geometry was still a very structured concept with points that had to be in particular spaces at particular distances from one another. And these points, like the tonality of the flower of life, were not yet in a constant torus field motion than the way they are now. But back then you were working on, for instance, taking a tulip and turning it into a rose and that sort of thing. Or I don't know if it was a rose into a lily or something like that.
Technically it was a daisy into a... What is big red? I can't remember the name.
Chrysalis or something?
No.
Chrysanthemum? Something like that? Geranium. Okay.
So technically that was it. But then at that point all the geometries of the different flowers looked very different, and when you visualised them, and I used to draw them, although they were all contained in a circular sphere, where any geometry containing or being part of Gaia is always in a circle, but the inside of it was always different and very obvious which flower it was manifesting. But now we hear that's all a completely old energy technique, and no need for anything that complicated anymore.
As you'll see, you'll still have to work with geometries, and that spherical identity of geometry that you just described as Gaian, of course, that will continue to remain, but the points within it, you'll learn to think of geometries less as something stable and something instead that is in constant motion. Like on Earth right now, in the way reality has been created so far, we had the different building blocks, sorry, I'm still not fully back yet. Yeah, the platonic solids, as it were, from the tetrahedron to other ones, and they were locked in. So certain forms would create certain fields of vibrational strength and frequential strength. But now you're going to see within the tonal field that each geometrical field, much like the sun has 1044 points of manifestation as a minimum, and much like you will be working with 144 DNA strands, that a geometry is something that will take on a minimum or a maximum, depending on what field you are in, of 1044 different shapes, which are constantly rotating.
See.
So it is a very fluid field. That's what we mean with a fluid field. That is how that happens. So you'll still do the exercise that you are used to doing in a way, but the geometry that you're working with will be more alive and not so much a masculine, as the son just said, or dead, locked in one form type of manifestation. So as you go into these exercises, I mean, Lotus in Ascension Basics and other classes in the premium zone that are coming up, you'll be working with people and teaching people that sort of thing even deeper. But your son has just asked you to start playing around with that. And this just blows my mind, like we're actually communicating with the son again. Isn't that amazing?
It's my son, he is.
Alex here from France says, thank you, Kwan and Lotus, and Leia. Leia made me giggle like mad, she says. Well, I felt the same. And I think that she was also, when those moments that she was very serious during the talk, it was always hard for herself, I think, to contain herself. A very, very interesting being that is returning to us. No wonder that the Ekara gathered Lemurians in a stadium, if you will, in Honoleia, and everybody was connecting to that energy as it was happening. I mean, they must have been very happy that she came back into reality. Leva writes, what an honor to be part of this. Whoa, Leia.
I feel the same. Yeah.
And now Mayana says, how long does it take to manifest a crystal? Is this how they made crystals in Atlantis? It certainly wasn't how they made crystals in Atlantis. You're talking more Lemurian times. And this has to do with the fact that when Lemuria was still around, we were still in a tonal field. Around the creation of Atlantis, we moved into a frequential field and therefore a vibratory field. So how long does it take to manifest a crystal? Well, you can do it right now. There really is no time separation. I believe that is also what she said, isn't it? What Leia said?
Yes.
That the 7-second buffer that used to be in existence is now gone. Yeah. So that is the answer to that question. And isn't it interesting when she spoke of the Star Wars mythology?
Yes, that was fascinating. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Excellent. And another 3 films to go then. We better go and see the latest one.
Yes, we should. We've been saying it for a while now that we were going to go, indeed. Yeah. Yes. But yes, the concept of Princess Leia and that she needed protecting and all of that sort of stuff and needed to be taken home. I mean, I don't remember so much of those old movies.
Rewatch these, but fascinating. Of course, there's so much disclosure with all of these archetype, and infiltrations. If you like.
And currently, Leia said, if I would do an overlight of a Princess Leia in a Star Wars movie today and not in the 1970s, I would never create such a bad, funny hairdo. Because she had those 2 donuts, didn't she, back then? True. Maybe those were the toroidal fields or the vortex fields or the torus fields or something.
Double that were torus.
Yeah. Ami from South Africa says, whoa, beloved Leia is such a vast and free spirit, definitely a rebel to structure. Thank you for the beautiful connection. And then she adds to that masculine structure, of course. And yes, it's true. And Coca says, I believe she's in Scotland right now, doing some work there energetically.
Not much sun up there, I wouldn't think, at the moment.
Maybe right now there might be.
Yeah.
She says, whoa, what just happened? It was intense, and at one point I was gone. I have to listen over again. I lost part of the transmission, she says. I think we all did. But then again, in a strange way, I did absorb the information. Nevertheless, I will listen again. As I said, I was gone, and the interesting thing is that a strong scent, a sensory experience of the nose, brought me back. I also experienced a slight headache. I'm experiencing one right now, actually, Coca, so I totally get that. But it sure gave us much to integrate. It was beautiful and powerful. But what else would you expect from Princess Leia?
Yeah, quite right.
I think I haven't landed yet. Well, nor have I. That's why I keep blabbering right now. No question at the moment, she says. I'm talking about love force, eh? So, oof, I love you, she says.
Thank you.
Mayana closes the final question here for the evening by saying, is there a connection between Leia and the ley line? Thanks for answering, and thank you to Leia, she says. Well, I actually think that is a very good point, which I hadn't really considered myself. But in Lemurian, the word Leia is certainly vector. So that is where that word comes from. So Honoleia would mean establishing a vector, because the hono is always, much like the word honomeia, is always the grounding turtle energy, that which builds the foundation. So Honoleia could be seen as the foundational vector, the original vector. And if you then see the word ley line, even though in this case it's English, it's interesting how a lot of these words try to sort of invert a geometry or copy something that is original and tonal, and try to sort of warp it. So it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was doing, isn't it?
Basically. So that's a very good point to make, isn't it? Thank you, Mayana. And then the last little comment, the last little comment I'm going to go through is Rosianne Wolquette, as she bursts through the solar system and says in her comment, thank you, Kwan Yin and Lotus, great to see you again. I was gone for a while too, and I need to listen again. It was powerful indeed. Love to all. Yes, it really was. Yeah. Were you gone too at certain moments?
Well, I definitely now have to listen again, and I was here. I didn't leave my body or anything like that. I was here the whole time, but the physical feelings of the energy were way stronger than being able to concentrate on the words at some point. So
yes.
As you consider that being gone, yeah, at some points, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was very powerful. I mean, I almost dropped out of channel a couple of times because it was just going so quickly.
I did wonder at one point if that might happen.
Yeah, and this is what I tried to explain during our most recent hangout a couple of days ago on January 3rd. The reason why I moved this episode of the solar activations another 48 hours in the future at that point is because our communication was going so strongly. And it was almost too fast. It was literally too fast to translate into any type of sound wave, you know. So the sound wave would constantly break up and move into a tonal wave, which of course is all nice, but it doesn't exactly allow for her to be able to speak. So you know, and tonight we were just on the edge of that, you know, of actually making that possible. But, of course, we're going to be back with you tomorrow, January 6th, for the third episode of the solar activations. And I hope that either tonight or sometime in the course of tomorrow during the daytime, I can get this episode, number 2, out before episode 3 starts, so that you all do have a chance to listen again to what happened here today. However, of course, I believe at the very end, Leia also said she herself would only be back in a couple of episodes. So I believe that is going to be episode 4 or even episode 5, where she's going to conclude that particular exercise that we did today. So I think I'm going to take a little break here, Lotus, and that I'm going to relax a little bit and go back into some technological work and try to get this episode on the webinar lounge for you to replay as many times as you would like. Please do send in your experiences as well as your questions either on the forum of the webinar lounge on the Ascendosphere or simply via ascendosphere@gmail.com, and we'll pick them up and discuss them in future episodes of the solar activations. So what do you still have to say in closing?
To say thank you, well done. That must have been quite something to manage. So big thank you from me to Kwan Yin, and a big thank you to all of you guys as well participating.
Yes.
Great to have you here.
Thank you very much, and it did make it a little difficult that I got stuck in 4D earlier during my re-entry point, but I'm sure that it will pick up. Other people here are still thanking us as well. Dennis is with us from Ireland, I believe. He says, thanks for me too, very powerful, must listen to it again. And other people are saying thank you and sharing their love throughout the entire Merkava. So from me as well, thank you for being with us. This was a very powerful episode. I won't forget it very quickly, I'm sure. I hope you have a great continuation of your moment, that you will have a beautiful day ahead or a beautiful evening ahead. And it is with great joy that I say, see you tomorrow for episode 3 of the Solar Activations webinar. Namaste and take care.